Space, the final frontier. An endless expanse of stars and galaxies, filled with wonders and mysteries beyond imagination. For the crew of the Starship Enterprise, it is a realm of exploration and discovery, guided by the principles of Starfleet and the United Federation of Planets. They believe they've seen it all, from bizarre cosmic anomalies to godlike beings with unfathomable powers. But nothing could prepare Captain Jean-Luc Picard and his crew for the day a visitor from another universe quite literally crashes into their lives. Meanwhile, in another reality entirely, a green light streaks across an evening sky. Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern of Sector 2814, soars above Earth with emerald energy crackling around his fist. Hal is a test pilot turned intergalactic peacekeeper, a man without fear, armed with the most powerful weapon in the universe, a power ring fueled by his own willpower. He's faced down alien armadas and cosmic tyrants, always with a fearless grin and an unwavering determination to do what's right. These two worlds, Star Trek S Federation and DCS Green Lantern Corps, seem as far apart as any could be. One rooted in scientific progress and diplomacy, the other in superheroic will and cosmic mysticism. Yet fate, or perhaps something even stranger, is about to weave their destinies together. What if Green Lantern landed in the world of Star Trek? Imagine an encounter where advanced starships meet hard light constructs, where phasers and photon torpedoes clash with the emerald light of willpower. How would the seasoned crew of the USS Enterprise-D react to a man who can create anything he imagines out of green energy? And how would Hal Jordan handle a universe governed not by comic book physics, but by the laws of Starfleet and the Prime Directive? It is a collision of ideals and abilities, the Federation-S mission of peaceful exploration, confronted by a hero used to taking bold action against evil. Both sides will have much to learn from each other. Brace yourself for a journey where no Green Lantern has gone before, and where one starship crew is about to get a crash course in the power of will. Our story begins with Hal Jordan high above his Earth, on a routine patrol that is about to become anything but routine. Hal Jordan arcs high above the clouds, leaving behind the world he calls home. At the edge of Earth's atmosphere, he pauses, his green aura shimmering against the darkness of space. It is supposed to be a quiet evening patrol of Sector 2814, a chance to breathe and relish the calm of the stars. But Hal's gut is telling him otherwise. Green Lanterns learn to trust their instincts, and right now, Hal senses something is off. His power ring has been picking up an anomalous energy reading for the past hour, a fluctuation in space that doesn't match any known phenomenon. Ring, give me an analysis of that energy signature, Hal commands, his voice echoing inside the green bubble of force field that surrounds him. The emerald ring on his finger, an advanced AI linked to the wisdom of the guardians of the universe, responds in a clear tone only Hal can hear. Analyzing. Energy anomaly at 3 million kilometers and approaching. Signature consistent with a dimensional instability or wormhole. Caution is advised, Green Lantern. Hal furrows his brow. A wormhole forming near Earth isn't unheard of, but a spontaneous dimensional instability? That's new. It could be a natural occurrence or something else. Hal's experience has taught him that often, when something weird is afoot, a villain usually isn't far behind. As he races toward the coordinates, a streak of sickly yellow light suddenly slices through the void. Hal's eyes narrow behind his green domino mask. He recognizes that color immediately, and it sends a jolt of adrenaline through him. "Sinestro," he mutters under his breath. Sure enough, emerging from the swirling distortion ahead is Hal Sinestro, former Green Lantern turned arch-nemesis, clad in his black and yellow uniform and wielding the fear-fueled power ring of the Sinestro Corps. Sinestro hovers arrogantly atop a platform of solidified yellow light, examining the anomaly with a mix of triumph and caution. "Fancy meeting you here, Jordan," Sinestro calls out, his voice transmitted directly to Hal's mind through the ring's communication link. There's a smug satisfaction in Sinestro's tone. Hal wastes no time. In one fluid motion, he projects a massive emerald shield in front of himself and rockets forward. "Sinestro, I had a feeling you'd be involved in this. What did you do? What is that thing?" Hal shouts, nodding toward the shimmering vortex of energy crackling in space not far from Sinestro. Sinestro's lip curls into a sneer. "Me? Why assume it was I who caused this beautiful tear in reality?" He gives a mock innocent shrug, but the glint in his eyes is anything but innocent. "But now that it is here, think of the possibilities, Hal. An unclaimed universe, perhaps. The Guardians don't rule it, and the Green Lantern Corps laws don't apply. It could be ripe for the taking." Hal's heart skips a beat at the implication. An entire other universe, free of the Corps protection. If Sinestro gets through and finds a world to conquer unchecked, the havoc he could wreak is unthinkable. Hal grips his fists tighter, green energy flaring around them. "Not on my watch," Hal shoots back defiantly. Sinestro isn't interested in further banter. With a sudden snarl, he thrusts out his hand and hurls a bolt of crackling yellow energy straight at Hal. Instinctively, Hal throws up his ring hand and reinforces his shield. The yellow blast slams into Hal's emerald barrier, sending ripples of green and yellow light dancing across the darkness. Sparks of willpower collide with sparks of fear, illuminating the void in a strobe light clash of color. The two arch-rivals streak around the forming wormhole, trading blows at near-relativistic speeds. Sinestro shapes his weapon-S energy into a volley of razor-sharp, spear-like projectiles that launch toward Hal like deadly javelins. In response, Hal crafts a squadron of glowing green fighter jets, miniaturized constructs of the very planes he once flew as a test pilot, and sends them screaming toward the spears. The emerald jets intercept the yellow lances in mid-space, each collision blossoming into a fireworks burst of green and yellow sparks. "You are not going anywhere, Sinestro," Hal yells, pouring on speed to tackle his foe directly. He conjures a giant glowing hand and sends it lunging out to grab Sinestro by the leg, yanking the Corrugarian villain away from the wormhole's edge. Sinestro twists free by slicing through the construct with a curved blade of yellow energy that he manifests in a flash. He sneers at Hal, eyes wild with the thrill of combat. "Still the Guardian's loyal attack dog, I see," Sinestro taunts over the crackling of energy between them. "Open your eyes, Hal. There are countless universes beyond our own. Why limit ourselves to protecting one measly sector when we could rule an entire cosmos?" Hal grits his teeth. "Because that's not our job. We here to protect people, not enslave them. I'll never let you harm innocents, no matter what universe they in." His voice is unwavering, the determination in it cutting through the vacuum. By now, the wormhole has grown from a flickering spark into a swirling vortex of multicolored light. Space itself shudders around it. Hal's ring emits a sharp warning pulse that he can feel against his finger. Dimensional breach imminent. Recommend safe distance. But Hal can tee back off, not with Sinestro still free and in range of this anomaly. If that portal fully opens and Sinestro slips through, who knows where y'all end up or what damage he'll do. Sinestro seems to have the same thought. With a sudden burst of speed, he ceases his assault on Hal and makes a break straight for the wormhole. He clearly intends to be the first one in, staking his claim on whatever lies beyond. "Out of my way, Jordan!" Sinestro snarls. Hal reacts in a split second. He wills a crackling green energy lasso to spring forth, and it snakes around Sinestro's waist just as the villain is about to dive into the nascent portal. "Oh no, you don't!" Hal growls, yanking Sinestro back. The two become locked in a cosmic tug-of-war, dangerously close to the event horizon of the anomaly. Unbeknownst to either of them, their violent clash has destabilized the phenomenon further. The wormhole was not ready to be forced open by two battling ring-slingers, and now it is collapsing and exploding outward simultaneously. Space and time warp chaotically at the edges of the vortex. Hal's ring screams another urgent alert. He barely registers something about a dimensional surge, just as a sudden gravitational pulse drags both lanterns inexorably inward. Hal feels his stomach lurch as stars stretch into dew streaks around him. He tries to maintain his grip on Sinestro and form a protective bubble around them, but the forces at play are overwhelming. An immense unseen power tears them apart like rag dolls in a hurricane. Everything becomes a blur of light and sound. Hal's consciousness wavers. Through the chaos, he hears Sinestro's furious yell. Whether in rage or fear, Hal cannot tell as they are flung uncontrollably into the unknown. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it is over. Hal Jordan is hurled out of the vortex and into an unfamiliar starscape like a comet spat from the heavens. He stabilizes himself as best he can, emerald aura flickering around his body, the ring automatically switching from offense to protection. For a moment, Hal's vision swims. He is dizzy and disoriented. Slowly, he rights himself in the weightlessness of space and forces himself to focus. The stars here are different. The constellations none are familiar. Hal's ring is pinging erratically, struggling to make sense of the coordinates. He gulps a breath, the ring providing him a bubble of air and life support, and does a quick mental check he is alive, uninjured for the most part, and still in one piece. "Sinestro?" Hal calls out over the Ring S channel, turning in all directions. No answer. He spins around, half expecting another sneak attack, but finds only silence and the distant twinkle of unfamiliar stars. Sinestro is nowhere to be seen. A wave of worry hits Hal. Did Sinestro also come through? If so, where is he? The thought of Sinestro loose in an unknown universe makes Hal's blood run cold. But he pushes that fear down one problem at a time. First, figure out where here is. Hal wills his ring to shine brighter, casting a green glow to illuminate his immediate surroundings. A quick scan might help. He pings the area with the Ring S sensors and immediately picks up something. A large metallic construct moving not far from his position. He pivots and finally spots it a vessel, gleaming under the starlight, on an approach vector toward him. His ring feeds him data on the object. Artificial construct detected. Metallic hull approximately 642 meters in length. Configuration: unknown. Propulsion signature: matter-antimatter warp drive. Crew: life signs detected predominantly human, with some variances. Human? Hal's heart lifts with cautious hope. Could he be near Earth, or at least near a human colony? He was thrown who knows how far, but if there are humans here, maybe he hasn't gone too far after all, or maybe humans in this universe are more widespread. At least it is a potentially friendly species. He squints at the approaching vessel. Even in the dim starlight, he can start to make out details as it comes closer. A broad, saucer-shaped forward section attached to a sturdy engineering hull, with two elongated nacelles sweeping back, glowing a faint blue. Emblazoned on the hull, he can now see blocky letters. USS Enterprise, NCC 1701D, the name, means nothing to Hal personally, but the format USS looks a lot like United States ship, or perhaps United Spaceship. Either way, it's clearly an advanced starship, far beyond any Earth spacecraft Hal knows from his own time. If this truly is a different universe, these humans might be centuries ahead, technologically. His Ring S analysis of a warp drive confirms as much. Warp drive suggests faster-than-light travel capability. Hal hovers calmly in space as the enormous ship slows to a relative stop a short distance away. The fact that they haven't shot at him already is a good sign. They likely detected his life sign and energy and moved in for a closer look. Hal decides it is best to show he isn't hostile. He allows the bright emerald glow around him to subside to a soft, non-threatening aura. Then, taking a deep breath of resolve, Hal raises both hands in what he hopes is a universal gesture of peace and surrender. Inside the ship, the USS Enterprise, his appearance hasn't gone unnoticed. On the bridge of this impressive starship, Captain Jean-Luc Picard sits in the command chair, eyes fixed on the main view screen, where a glowing green humanoid figure hovers in open space. The crew around him exchange bewildered looks. Commander William Riker, Picard's first officer, leans forward. He's just out there, in a green suit, no ship or spacesuit. At Ops, the android Lieutenant Commander Data is analyzing sensor readings of Hal. Captain, Data reports in his calm, precise tone. The individual appears to be human. The energy field around him is unlike any technology I have on record. It seems to emanate from the ring on his right hand. Fascinating Counselor Deanna Troi, seated to Picard's left, furrows her brow. As a half-betazoid empath, she senses something unusual from this visitor. I sense determination and confusion, she says softly. He's alarmed, but not hostile. In fact, he's trying to appear non-threatening. At tactical, Lieutenant Worf's Klingon instincts scream caution. He stands at his console, ready to raise shields or arm weapons at the slightest provocation. Captain, Worf growls, this could be a trick or a scout for an attack. I recommend we maintain shields and keep weapons on standby until we know more. Picard steeples his fingers, observing the figure's peaceful posture and diminished glow. Noted, Mr. Worf, he says in his measured, authoritative voice. Let S not jump to conclusions. He hasn't shown aggression. Picard makes a decision. Open a channel. A moment later, Hal hears a voice crackle to life through a channel. The ring automatically opens to the ship's frequency. It's calm, authoritative, and carries a refined English accent. Unidentified life form. This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation starship Enterprise. We mean you no harm. Do you require assistance? Relief floods Hal. Communication good. And in English, no less. The Ring S translator or some parallel evolution he doesn't. T-care, which right now. He calls back, trusting the ring to carry his voice. Hello, Enterprise. My name is Hal Jordan. I am an officer of the Green Lantern Corps, and, I guess you could say I am a bit lost. I sure could use some help. On the bridge of the Enterprise, eyebrows shoot up. Green Lantern Corps? Officer? Riker repeats quietly, trading incredulous looks with Troy. None of this rings a bell in Federation databases. Certainly Data would have mentioned if Green Lantern Corps was something known. Picard, ever composed, continues over the open channel. Green Lantern Corps, you say? I am not familiar with that organization, Mr. Jordan, but you appear to be a long way from any human colony we know. We would be glad to render assistance. Are you able to come aboard our ship? We can extend our shield around you and beam you directly to a safe location, if that is acceptable. Hal takes a second to parse some of those terms, extend shields and beam sounds like some kind of teleportation. His ring helpfully supplies context. A brief scan indicates the ship has transporter technology capable of dematerializing and rematerializing objects. Hal's no stranger to teleporters. Some alien races and even the Justice League use them. But it is still not something he personally experiences every day. He is a bit wary of having his molecules scrambled by an unknown system, but these people seem cordial and his alternatives are limited. That would be fine, Captain, and thank you. I appreciate the hospitality, Hal replies, hoping his gratitude comes through. On the Enterprise bridge, Picard nods to his transporter chief at Ops. Lock on to him and energize. Direct to sickbay. With the target willingly standing by, the transporter has no trouble getting a fix. Picard taps his intercom. Picard to Dr. Crusher. We rebeaming an unknown human directly to sickbay. He may need medical attention. Security, send a detail to sickbay as well. In the blink of an eye, Hal finds himself enveloped in a column of shimmering golden light. He feels a curious tingling as his body's matter is taken apart. For a brief millisecond, panic flares in him. The ring reacts, flaring a protective aura around Hal as if to shield him from harm. Hal quickly mentally reassures his ring. Easy, it is okay. This is their method of transport. The ring, attuned to his will, obeys and dampens its automatic defense. The sensation passes almost instantly. The golden transporter beam deposits Hal inside a quiet, clean room. He blinks as solid ground replaces space beneath his boots. The lighting is soft and sterile, and the smell is subtly antiseptic. He recognizes it as a medical bay of some sort. Hal has arrived in the Enterprise as sickbay. He glances around. The place is filled with advanced medical equipment beds with overhead scanners, display screens showing vital signs, walls lined with instruments he can T-name. A pair of gold-uniformed security officers stands to one side, hands near their phasers, eyeing him warily, but not threateningly. By Hal's standards, they look mildly anxious, understandable, given his dramatic entrance. A woman in a blue Starfleet uniform steps forward. She has warm auburn hair and kind eyes that carry both compassion and authority. A medical tricorder is in her hand, already open and whirring as it scans Hal. "Welcome aboard the Enterprise," she says with a professional but gentle tone. "I am Dr. Beverly Crusher. Let us make sure you were all right." Hal gives a friendly smile and holds up his hands, now devoid of the helmet that his ring usually forms. He let it fade so his face is visible. "Thank you, Doctor. I feel fine. The transport was, well, one heck of a ride, but I am okay. Crusher runs the tricorder over him from head to toe. The device hums and displays readings. She raises an eyebrow, impressed. Your vitals are remarkably normal for someone who was just floating in the vacuum of space without a suit. How were you surviving out there? Our sensors showed no environmental suit or spacecraft. Hal taps the glowing green emblem on his chest, the symbol of the Corps that doubles as part of his uniform. It S thanks to this. Well, more precisely, thanks to the ring. He holds up his right hand, showing the green ring shining on his finger. It creates an energy field that provides life support atmosphere to breathe, pressure, temperature control, radiation shielding, the works. One of the many perks of being a Green Lantern. Standing nearby, Lieutenant Commander Geordi LaForge, the chief engineer, identifiable by his visor device wrapped around his eyes, is studying a medical console that S registering Hal S energy signature. Geordi steps closer, fascinated. Your ring can project a force field that keeps you alive in space? That S, incredible. What powers it, exactly? We detected an energy source around you, but it didn't match any known power generation. Hal hesitates slightly. It is always a bit tricky explaining the ring to those outside the Corps. It sounds so fantastical. But given everything he has seen from these Starfleet folks so far, maybe it wouldn't to be too hard for them to accept. It is going to sound strange. The ring is powered by willpower, my own will, amplified by an energy source maintained by an ancient race called the Guardians of the Universe. Think of it as channeling a cosmic energy field that S tied to will and imagination. The ring is part supercomputer, part battery for that energy. As long as I have the willpower and a sufficient charge, I can create pretty much anything I can think of, made of solid light. Geordi S.'s mouth falls slightly open. Behind the visor, his eyebrows shoot up. Willpower as an energy source, now I've heard everything, he murmurs in awe. That's certainly not like any technology we have in the Federation. His engineer-s mind is already spinning at the possibilities. Dr. Crusher finishes her scans and smiles, stepping back. Well, Mr. Jordan, aside from elevated adrenaline, which is understandable, you appear to be in perfect health. She glances at his unconventional attire, the green and black uniform glowing faintly with energy. Though I suspect our instruments might not catch everything about your unique situation. At that moment, the sickbay doors hiss open. Captain Picard strides in, accompanied by Commander Riker and Counselor Troy. Hal stands a bit straighter out of reflex, despite the bizarre circumstances. He's still in the presence of what looks like this ship as senior staff, and old habits of respect die hard. Picard approaches, offering a courteous nod. Up close, Hal notes the Captain S.'s composed demeanor and keen, intelligent eyes. Mr. Jordan, welcome aboard, Picard says. I am Jean-Luc Picard, Captain of the Enterprise. This is Commander Riker, my first officer, and Counselor Deanna Troy. They each greet him in turn. Riker gives a firm, friendly handshake, sizing Hal up with a curious half-smile. Troy offers a kind nod and an encouraging smile, her dark eyes seeming to look right into him. Hal feels an oddly gentle probing at the edges of his mind, perhaps her empathic sense checking his emotional state. I want to thank you for your assistance, Captain. Hal begins earnestly, addressing Picard, but including the others with a glance. I didn't expect to ever say this, but I think I've been thrown into an alternate universe. My instruments, my ring can't identify the star patterns at all. And I've never heard of the Federation or Starfleet before, though it is good to see humans out here. As I told your people, I am a Green Lantern, basically an interstellar law enforcement officer where I come from. We keep the peace in our sector of space, or at least, the idea. Picard and Riker exchange a quick look of astonishment at the matter-of-fact mention of alternate universes. But given what the Enterprise crew has experienced, it is not wholly beyond belief. Picard's face remains thoughtful. Alternate universe, he echoes. The Enterprise has encountered parallel realities before, but usually those involve alternate versions of themselves, not entirely new individuals popping in. Your arrival certainly was unique, Mr. Jordan. We were investigating an unusual surge of energy ourselves when we found you. If I may ask, what exactly happened on your side? It might relate to the spatial anomaly we observed. Hal blows out a breath, trying to condense the chaos into a coherent story. It was an anomaly on my side too, like a wormhole or some kind of dimensional tear forming in space near my planet. I was in the middle of, let us say, a fight with someone someone who might have triggered it, or at least tried to exploit it. Next thing I knew, I got sucked in. I lost contact with him during the transit, and then I ended up here. I didn't see him come out with me, but I am worried he might be also crossed into this universe, maybe in a different location. Riker's easygoing expression turns more serious. A fight, you say? This person or being is dangerous, I take it? Hal nods gravely. Extremely dangerous. His name is Sinestro. He has a power ring like mine, but it is fueled by fear instead of willpower. He is ruthless, cunning, and he won't hesitate to hurt or kill anyone to get what he wants. If he is here, then your universe has a big problem on its hands, just like mine does when he is around. Picard's jaw sets in a hard line. The thought of an unknown hostile with such power roaming free is deeply concerning. Understood. We will have to account for that possibility. First things first, we should verify if any other anomalous readings, like the one heralding your arrival, have appeared nearby. Data. Geordi scan for any quantum flux signatures or residual traces similar to the initial anomaly. Data, who had been quietly absorbing everything, nods. Already underway, Captain. The android taps his comm badge and departs sickbay alongside Geordi, likely heading for the nearest science station or the bridge to begin an intensive scan. Picard returns his attention to Hal. Counselor Troy steps forward gently, her voice soft with concern. I sense your worry mostly for the people you feel responsible for in your own universe, and for what this Sinestro might do here. We'll do everything we can to help you adjust and to address this threat, Hal. Hal offers her a grateful smile. Thank you, Counselor. I won't lie. I am definitely concerned not only about Sinestro, but also about how to get back home. I have duties there, people who will wonder what happened to me. But I realize rushing off without a plan wouldn't do any good. For now, I'll focus on the here and now, making sure Sinestro doesn't wreak havoc here and figuring out a way back. I really appreciate how hospitable you all have been to a total stranger. Riker chuckles, arms folded in a relaxed stance. Well, you did literally drop in on our doorstep in the middle of space. We're not in the habit of turning away someone who comes in peace. Though I have to say, the glowing green suit is a new one for us. Hal laughs, looking down at his uniform, which aside from the glow, looks like a skin-tight stylized amalgam of a pilot suit and a superhero costume. Believe me, Commander, I am not used to waking up on a spaceship starship. I should say hundreds of years in the future either. Wait, it is the future, right? What year is this, if you don't mind? Picard and the others realize he truly might be from a different time as well as place. By our calendar, it is the year 2368, Picard answers. Hal's eyes widen slightly. The 24th century, he lets out a low whistle. 2368. In my world, it was 2023. So, Ivy jumped ahead a few centuries as well as across dimensions. That wormhole was one heck of a ride indeed. Geordi, on his way out but overhearing that, gives a friendly wave. That would explain some of the differences. Hang in there, Hal, we'll get you oriented. Maybe later I can give you a tour of our engine room. You seem like a man who appreciates tech. Count me in, Hal grins. As Geordi and Data exit, Worf too slips out quietly, likely heading back to the bridge or security duties after satisfying himself that Hal isn't an immediate threat. Dr. Crusher, seeing that Hal is indeed fine, closes her tricorder. If you experience any dizziness or ill effects from the transit, let me know. Otherwise, I'll leave you in the hands of the captain for now. Hal nods appreciatively. Thank you, Doctor. I feel good as new. Picard gestures toward the sickbay doors. Mr. Jordan, if you're up for it, I'd be happy to show you around a bit and then have Commander Riker assign you quarters to rest. In the meantime, as soon as we have any leads on this Sinestro or a way to get you home, we'll let you know. And please, call me Captain or Picard, whichever you are more comfortable with. Sure thing, Captain. And you can call me Hal, he responds, falling into step with Picard and Riker as they leave sickbay with Troy. Walking through the pristine, carpeted corridors of the Enterprise, Hal is like a traveler stepping into the future. Crew members pass by, sneaking curious glances at the man in the green and black uniform illuminated by a gentle emerald glow. Riker points out various sections as they walk. Deck 12 crew quarters are mostly here. We'll set you up in guest quarters on this deck. Over there's a turbo lift, our elevators that move both vertically and horizontally through the ship. And down that way, he nods to a branching corridor, is 10 forward the ship's lounge. Great place to relax. We can stop by later if you like. I suspect some of the crew would love to meet you informally. Hal listens, nodding, doing his best to absorb everything. The starship's interior feels so vibrant and alive, it thrums with the gentle energy of its engines. And everywhere he looks, there is evidence of advanced technology seamlessly integrated into daily life. Panels on the walls display ship status. A crewman touches a screen to adjust environmental controls as they pass. And the hum of the life support and warp core is like a faint heartbeat underlying it all. As they stroll, Riker can't help but satisfy some of his burning curiosity. So, Green Lantern Corps. From the sound of it, you were like a peacekeeping force out there? Are there many like you, or are you an army of one? Hal chuckles. There are many of us, thousands of Green Lanterns, each assigned to a different sector of the universe. My sector includes Earth and a whole lot of other star systems. We are sort of like interstellar sheriffs, I guess you could say. We answer to the guardians, those ancient beings I mentioned. They lay down the law, we enforce it. It is not military conquest or anything, more like patrolling and intervening when big threats arise. Riker's eyebrows lift. Thousands of sectors, thousands of lanterns that is quite an organization. Hard to imagine we've never heard of it, which lends credence to this being an alternate reality. In our universe, we haven't encountered anything like the core or these guardians in all of Starfleet's travels, and they sound like they'd be noticeable. Hal nods. In my universe, I'm pretty sure Starfleet and the Federation are fictional, at least. They were in my time. He rubs the back of his neck, remembering something. You know, where I come from, the idea of humans exploring space in a Federation is a well-known concept. I honestly feel like I walked into one of my old TV shows or something. Troy tilts her head curiously. Yes, you mentioned something about Starfleet being fiction in your world. It is quite intriguing, almost as if ideas bled through from one reality to another. Hal shrugs with a grin. It is intriguing. Believe me, it is taking a lot not to geek out right now. The fact that I am on a starship named Enterprise, it means something where I come from. He doesn't delve into details at S2 meta to explain they were characters in a TV show from his world, but the crew can sense his wonder and familiarity, even in the strangeness. Soon they arrive at a set of doors that swish open to reveal a modest but comfortable guest quarters. Inside is a neatly made bed, a desk with a computer terminal, a small sofa, and a window that currently shows the star-studded expanse outside. Hal steps in and takes it all in. "We'll let you get settled," Picard says. "If you need anything, you can ask the ship's computer by saying computer and stating your request. It will respond via voice, and you're free to move about as you wish. Within reason, we might ask you not to access certain sensitive areas, but you seem reasonable enough." Hal turns to them and smiles appreciatively. "Understood. And thank you, Captain, Commander, Counselor. I promise I'm not here to cause any trouble. Quite the opposite, I'd like to help out however I can, given the situation." Picard returns the smile warmly. "Your cooperation is appreciated. Get some rest. We'll likely convene in a few hours once Data and LaForge complete their scans. They will let us know if they find any trace of this Sinestro or the dimensional anomaly." With that, Picard, Riker, and Troy bid him temporary farewell and depart, leaving Hal in quiet solitude for the first time since he arrived. The door whispers shut, and Hal exhales, running a hand through his short brown hair. He moves to the small desk, where he finds a pad of paper and a stylus, perhaps left for guests. Old habits kick in. He finds it calming to jot things down. He scribbles a brief list, a plan of action to clear his head. 1. Find Sinestro, if he is here in this universe. 2. Figure out how to get back home. Just seeing the two major tasks written out makes them feel more manageable, if still daunting. At the top, Hal underlines "Find Sinestro" twice. Even as he sets the pad down, the door chimes suddenly beeps, a soft two-toned alert. "Come in," he calls, guessing that how doors work here. The doors slide open, and Captain Picard steps in once more, having decided to check on their guest personally. Hal turns to face him. "Captain, everything all right?" Picard offers a polite smile. Yes. I just wanted to see how you were faring, Mr. Jordan. Adjusting to our 24th century accommodations?" Hal grins and gestures around the quarters. "It is great, a lot nicer than my apartment back home, that's for sure. And the replicator." He points to a wall unit he has been eyeing. "It can really make any food or drink I want out of thin air," Picard chuckles. "Within ship's programming limits, yes. Feel free to try it. We use it for most meals." Hal, feeling a bit thirsty and adventurous, walks to the replicator. Computer, water, cold, with a twist of lemon. In a shimmering effect, a glass of water with a slice of lemon materializes. He picks it up, marveling. Now that S convenient. He takes a sip, crisp and perfect. Picard watches with a kind of grandfatherly amusement. Then his expression turns more serious, though still friendly. Hal, I also thought this might be a good time to understand each other better. In Starfleet, we are explorers and diplomats first, though we do defend ourselves when needed. Your Green Lantern Corps sounds somewhat militaristic by comparison. Officers, sectors of space you patrol. How do you operate, exactly? Hal leans against the desk, cradling the water glass. He appreciates Picard's curiosity rather than fear. The Corps has some military structure, yes, in that we have ranks and follow orders. The Guardians' little blue immortals are at the top. Think of the Guardians as the well, maybe like the Federation Council meets High Elders of the universe. Each Green Lantern, and there are 3,600 of us in my universe, patrols a sector of space, which is essentially a slice of the galaxy. We respond to distress calls, stop galactic-scale threats, and try to keep the peace. We read more like an interstellar police force than any conquering army. We don a rule. We serve and protect. Picard nods thoughtfully, pacing slowly as he listens. Interstellar police sheriffs, as you said. And the authority you carry, is it universally recognized? Or do some civilizations consider you interlopers? Hal shrugs lightly. It varies. Many civilizations welcome our help, especially if they don't have advanced defenses of their own. Some more isolationist or prideful worlds don't like us meddling. We typically only intervene when absolutely necessary or when asked. The general rule is to avoid interfering with a world's natural development. Funny enough, that sounds like your prime directive unless there's a really good reason, like a tyrant enslaving a planet or a cosmic disaster looming. We try not to play gods or set ourselves up as rulers. We were more about neutralizing threats. Picard's face brightens at the mention of the prime directive. Our prime directive forbids us from interfering in the natural development of less advanced civilizations. It is a cornerstone of our ethics, though it can be challenging to uphold at times. We've faced scenarios where doing nothing felt morally wrong, yet interfering could contaminate a culture's growth or drag the Federation into conflicts. Hal nods in understanding. I've heard of a concept like that. Where I come from, Star Trek Your World was actually known in fiction for that prime directive idea. It is admirable, though I can see how it puts you in a bind. The Green Lantern Corps has guidelines a bit like that, but maybe more lenient when it comes to obvious evil. If lives are in immediate danger on a massive scale, we re-empowered to save them, even if it means revealing ourselves to a civilization that has never met aliens. But we definitely don't set ourselves up as their saviors or tech donors. After the crisis, we usually leave them be. It is a fine line, I admit. Picard smiles at the irony. Hal treats Starfleet's guiding principle as somewhat more restrictive than the Lanterns. Every situation is unique, but I admire that your Corps strives for a balance of non-interference and intervention when necessary. It is not unlike the debates we have at Starfleet Command on when to bend the rules for the greater good. The conversation then turns to Sinestro again. Picard clasps his hands behind his back. This adversary of yours, if he truly is here, we could be dealing with someone beyond our usual scale of threats. How would you advise we handle him, should we encounter him? Hal's expression hardens. Sinestro will be ruthless and devious. He used to be the greatest Green Lantern of all before he betrayed the Corps, so he knows how to fight someone like me. His power comes from invoking fear. The best way to handle him is to not give him an opening to exploit fear or panic. I will take him on directly. He'll be focused on me. But any help your crew can provide, containment fields, distractions, tactical support, could tip the balance. In the end, it might come down to ring against ring, and I've beaten him before, but never lightly. Picard absorbs that. Understood. We all support you as best as we are able. Though I suspect our conventional weapons may not affect him much, we have a few tricks. And my crew is very resourceful. He permits himself a confident grin, clearly proud of his people. Before the conversation can continue, Picard's communicator chirps. Riker's voice comes through, a little urgent. Bridge to Captain Picard. Sir, you're gonna want to hear this. Picard taps the badge on his chest. Picard here, go ahead, number 1. Riker's voice reports. We finished the long-range scans, and we found something. Data picked up traces of a similar quantum signature to the anomaly that brought Hal near the edge of Federation space in the direction of the Romulan neutral zone. And sir, long-range sensors are detecting a vessel on an intercept course from that area, a Romulan warbird, decloaking briefly before going dark. We might have a situation. Hal stands from where he'd been leaning, heart rate spiking at Riker's words. That S got to be Sinestro. Maybe he ran into these Romulans and hitched a ride or forced one. Picard's face grows resolute. Agreed. We'll be right there, number 1. Raise shields just in case, and keep hailing them. Picard out. He closes the channel and fixes Hal with a firm look. Time to see what S coming our way, shall we? Hal clenches his fists, the ring on his finger pulsing with readiness. Lead the way, Captain. Moments later, Picard and Hal stride onto the Enterprise bridge, with Picard barking, "Report!" On the main view screen looms the image of a Romulan warbird, a vast, green-hued predator of a ship, shaped like a great bird of prey with its wings swept forward. Though currently at a distance, it is close enough to be concerning. Worf, at tactical, has the sensors focused on it. The Romulan vessel decloaked briefly off our port bow, approximately 200,000 kilometers out. They are holding position now. Their weapons are powered, but not locked, sir. They are hailing us. Picard walks straight to the center of the bridge. Riker vacates the Captain's chair area, moving to Picard's side. Troy quietly takes her seat to the left, eyes narrowing as she tries to sense the Romulan crew's emotions. At a distance, she picks up agitation, fear, and something that feels distinctly other aboard that ship. Hal stands just behind Picard and Riker, a newcomer on the bridge, but ready to back them up. On screen, Picard orders. The view screen flickers, and the bridge crew and Hal find themselves face to face with the image of a Romulan commander in his dark uniform, standing on the bridge of his warbird. But it's not the Romulan that draws their attention first. It's the tall, red-skinned figure standing just slightly behind and to the side of him, arms clasped behind his back. Sinestro. Hal's eyes lock onto his nemesis instantly. Sinestro appears smug, a thin smile on his face as he looks directly at the Enterprise bridge crew, as though he can see each of them individually. It sends a chill down more than one spine on Picard's bridge to see a being simply standing on a Romulan bridge without any Romulan rank or insignia, clearly in a position of power. The Romulan commander speaks first, clearing his throat. Federation starship Enterprise. I am Commander Sokal of the Romulan warbird Korat. You are harboring an individual that is of interest to the Romulan Star Empire. We demand that you turn him over to us at once. His tone is imperious, used to giving orders. Riker mutters under his breath. Straight to demands. That is Romulan diplomacy for you. Hal doesn't take his eyes off Sinestro, whose yellow-ringed hand rests lightly at his side, the villain seemingly relaxed. Picard remains poised. Commander Sokal, this is Captain Picard. We have no Romulan citizens aboard this ship, so I am not sure to whom you are referring. Perhaps you could clarify who exactly you believe we are harboring. Sinestro's thin mustache twitches as his smile grows. He steps forward slightly, placing a yellow-gloved hand on Sokal's shoulder in a disturbingly familiar gesture that makes it clear who S controlling whom. Sinestro addresses Picard directly, voice silken with false courtesy. Picard, is it? Let S dispense with the pleasantries. I am referring to Hal Jordan, the so-called Green Lantern you plucked from space. He doesn't belong to your Federation, and frankly, he doesn't belong in this universe, nor do I. He is a fugitive and a threat. Hand him over, and I'll take responsibility for him. On the Enterprise bridge, all eyes momentarily shift to Hal. Hal steps forward into view, ensuring Sinestro can see him clearly. Sinestro! Don T, listen to him, Captain. He's the one I warned you about, Hal announces, voice steady. Sokal, the Romulan commander, looks momentarily uncomfortable at being upstaged, but he regains his composure enough to add in. Captain Picard, the Romulan Empire considers this Green Lantern a dangerous element. He must be taken into our custody immediately. If you refuse, it will be considered an act of aggression against the Empire for harboring a known threat. His eyes flick uneasily to Sinestro as he speaks, Sokal clearly caught between fear of Sinestro and duty to his empire, and it is not a pleasant place to be. Picard's expression turns stony. Commander, Mr. Jordan is a guest under our protection. If you have claims against him, those will need to be addressed through proper diplomatic channels, not under the threat of force. And I find it curious that you label him a threat when it appears you've allied yourself with another individual of similar capabilities. One who, I suspect, has already harmed your crew. Picard's sharp eyes have noticed the subtle scorches and dents on the Romulan bridge behind them, as well as the nervous, bruised look of Sokal himself. Hal's earlier cautionary tale about Sinestro rings true. Sinestro's patience with the discussion wears thin, his eyes narrow. Enough of this. He puts a firm hand on Sokal's shoulder, edging the Romulan aside. The commander stiffens, clearly not used to being manhandled on his own bridge, but he stays silent. Sinestro addresses the Enterprise again, his tone turning cold. Picard, I was hoping to do this the easy way, but it seems Hal has already poisoned you against me. So be it. If you want to hand him over, we'll just have to take him. And trust me, you do not want to get in my way. With that thinly veiled threat, Sinestro makes a cutting motion, and the transmission is terminated from the Romulan side. The view screen image blinks back to the intimidating sight of the warbird hanging in space before them. Red alert! Raise shields! Picard commands immediately. The bridge lighting shifts to red as klaxons sound. Evasive maneuvers, pattern Omega. Worf, ready phasers and photon torpedoes, but do not fire until fired upon. Even as Picard speaks, the warbird strikes first. A lance of emerald green disruptor energy sears through space toward the Enterprise. The ship rocks as it takes a glancing hit across its forward shields. "Return fire. Aim for their weapons arrays," Riker orders, gripping his chair as another disruptor blast narrowly misses, streaking off the port bow. Worf's hands dance over the tactical controls. The Enterprise S phasers emit golden beams of energy that spear out and rake across the Romulan ship S shields. The warbird twists with surprising agility for its bulk, evading some of the shots and returning fire with a pair of bright plasma torpedoes. The deadly orbs streak toward the Enterprise, but the Galaxy-class starship banks hard under Lieutenant Khan's deft navigation, and the torpedoes sail past, detonating harmlessly in the void. Amid the shaking and flashing lights, Hal Jordan remains on the bridge for only a moment more. He turns to Picard. "Captain, let me help. That warbird Sinestro S on it. I can take the fight to him directly, outside your ship." Picard hesitates only a fraction of a second. In normal circumstances, he'd never allow a guest to put himself in harm's way for them. But Hal is clearly far more than a guest. He is possibly their best chance. Picard gives a curt nod. "Very well, Mr. Jordan, but be careful. We'll do what we can to keep that ship occupied. Mr. Worf, open the shuttle bay doors and modulate the shields to allow Mr. Jordan to exit." Worf quickly acknowledges, fingers flying across his board. Shuttle bay doors open, shields adjusted for a 2-second egress window now. Hal gives them a confident, determined smile. "I'll be back before you know it." With that, he surrounds himself in a tight bubble of emerald energy and, in a blur, flies down the nearest corridor toward the shuttle bay. The internal force field had been adjusted just as planned, and Hal streaks out of the belly of the Enterprise into space. Now outside, Hal orients himself amidst the pitched space battle. The Enterprise and the Romulan warbird are circling each other in a deadly dance not far away. Both ship shields flash as bolts of energy are exchanged. Hal immediately spots the Warbird-S bridge area, and more importantly, the bright figure that has just blasted out through a new gash in the Warbird-S hull. Sinestro has decided to join the fray in person. Above the giant vessels, 2 human-shaped comets, one green, one yellow, hurtle toward each other. On the Enterprise bridge, the crew watches in astonishment as Hal Jordan, surrounded by a corona of brilliant emerald light, interposes himself between the Warbird and the Enterprise. A disruptor blast from the Romulans that might have clipped the Enterprise-S nacelle instead slams into an enormous green shield Hal projects, dissipating harmlessly. He reinforcing our shields with his own energy. Data reports, fascinated. Riker allows himself a brief grin. That one way to lend a hand. Hal doesn't stop at defense. He rockets straight toward the Romulan Warbird S bow. Ring, locate Sinestro, he thinks, and his ring guides his gaze to the bridge area, where Sinestro S yellow energy signature glows like a small sun. Hal forms a giant battering ram construct ahead of him, essentially a massive green wedge, and slams it into the Warbird-S hull just below the bridge. The impact is tremendous, rocking the Romulan ship. The Warbird-S forward disruptor arrays flicker and go dark. Hal has knocked out some of their weaponry in one blow. Inside the Warbird, Commander Sokal is knocked off his feet as consoles shower sparks. The crew scrambles, alarms wailing. The blow Hal delivered has disabled their forward disruptors and sent a shock through the whole ship. Forward disruptors offline. A panicked sub-commander reports on the Romulan bridge. Sokal, regaining his chair, has had enough of this. Sinestro was outside now, leaving Sokal feeling less watched. Pride wounded and fed up, he barks. Re-engage cloak. We'll reposition behind the Federation ship. The warbird veers abruptly. Worf, on the Enterprise, narrows his eyes at his display. Captain, the Romulan vessel is attempting to retreat behind us, trying to use us as cover from the lanterns. Before the Enterprise can reposition, the Romulan ship suddenly vanishes from the view screen, shimmering and fading out of sight. "They've a cloaked, sir," Worf growls, frustration evident. Losing a target like this in the middle of a firefight is every tactical officer's nightmare. Hal, out amidst the stars, isn't about to let the warbird slip away. His Ring-S sensorium can detect more than normal eyes. He spots a subtle distortion, a ripple in starlight that betrays the cloaked warbird S movement. Through the comm channel bridging him to the Enterprise, Hal quickly warns. They recircling around, cloaked, trying to flank you on the port side. Trusting Hal's extraordinary perception, Picard reacts instantly. Worf, photon torpedoes, spread pattern, bearing 347 Mark 10 now, 3 brilliant orange. Photon torpedoes launch from the Enterprise-S forward tube, streaking toward the coordinates Picard trusted Hal in providing. For a heartbeat, it looks like they all sail off into empty space. Then a sudden bloom of fire erupts in the void as one torpedo strikes something unseen. The Romulan warbird flares back into visibility, its cloaking field disrupted by the explosion. A portion of its aft hull shields flicker, having absorbed the glancing torpedo blast. Worf bares his teeth in satisfaction. "Target reacquired, Captain. The Romulan S cloak is disabled." Picard allows himself the quickest sigh of relief. "Well done, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Worf." Now visible again, the Romulan warbird finds itself contending with an enraged Green Lantern on one side and the Federation S flagship on the other. Meanwhile, Hal zeroes in on Sinestro. The red-skinned villain is streaking toward the Enterprise S saucer section, perhaps intending to wreak havoc directly. Hal intercepts him mid-flight, and the two meet with a shockwave of colliding energy, a flash of green and yellow that lights up the darkness. They begin a furious close-quarters duel, darting and spinning amid phaser beams and starlight. Sinestro conjures a squadron of glowing yellow fighter planes of his own, a mocking mirror of Hal's earlier tactic. The yellow constructs roar toward Hal, spewing bursts of fear-fueled ammunition. Hal counters by throwing up a rapid series of green flak bursts, detonating a few of the Phantom fighters. One slips through and strafes him with sizzling bolts. Hal grimaces as his aura takes the hits, holding for now. Sinestro presses the advantage. He shapes his energy into a massive spiked mace and swings it viciously at Hal. Hal brings up a curved green shield just in time. The Mace-S impact sends reverberations through Hal's ring, jarring his arm. The force hurls him back a dozen yards through space. Sinestro follows up immediately, aiming to bind his foe. Streams of yellow light spiral out from his ring, coiling around Hal. In seconds, Hal finds himself ensnared by chains of solid fear energy tightening around his torso and limbs. Sinestro has effectively hogtied him in midair with glowing yellow constrictors. Hal struggles as the chains tighten. He can feel the energy trying to burrow into his psyche, feeding on any hint of doubt or fear, a nasty feature of Sinestro-S constructs. They start to siphon his will, making the green aura around Hal flicker. Sinestro drifts closer, one hand extended to maintain the chains, while the other is folded behind his back in a disturbingly casual posture. He looks for all the world like a man out for a leisurely walk, except for the malicious delight in his eyes. "Give up, Jordan," Sinestro sneers, voice echoing in Hal's ears. "I can feel it, your will faltering, your fear growing. You know you've lost. All your noble efforts, and you still fail just like you failed your city, your father, your core." Each word oozes venom, calculated to stab at Hal's deepest wounds. For an instant, Hal does feel a stab of despair. Sinestro's words hit home memories, flash of his father, as fatal crash when Hal was a boy, of Coast City in ruins during a past crisis. Fear that insidious whisper creeps in, the fear that Sinestro might be right, that Hal can win this time, that he will let everyone down. The yellow chains pulse brighter, sensing Hal's momentary doubt and tightening like hungry serpents. Hal gasps as they press in on him, and his ring's light dims another notch. Aboard the Enterprise, the bridge crew collectively holds its breath. They see Hal trapped in Sinestro's bonds on the viewscreen magnification. Troy's hands clasped together, she can sense the swirl of fear and will in that struggle, a storm of emotions even out in space. "Come on, Hal," Riker whispers under his breath, rooting for their new ally. But Hal Jordan is a man renowned for his ability to face fear, literally a man without fear, or more accurately, a man who overcomes fear with will. Gritting his teeth, Hal forces himself to focus. He recalls all the people depending on him, not just in his universe, but here and now. The Enterprise crew placing their trust in him. The millions on that Romulan ship who could be collateral damage if this escalates. Everyone back home who needs him to return. Fear is there, yes, but he refuses to let it dominate. In brightest day, in blackest night, Hal growls under his breath, invoking the familiar mantra not as a formal oath now, but as a steadying reminder. No evil shall escape my sight. Green light begins to surge from within Hal, building in intensity. The chains around him shudder as if under great strain. Sinestro's confident grin falters. What are you?" Hal's eyes snap open, blazing with green energy. "I haven't lost yet," he shouts. With an explosive pulse of pure willpower, a radial shockwave of green energy erupts from Hal's body. The emerald blast shatters Sinestro's yellow chains into fragments of dissipating light. Caught off guard, Sinestro is thrown backward, momentarily stunned by the sudden burst of power. Free, Hal doesn't squander the moment. He draws in a deep breath, heart pounding but spirit surging, and flies after Sinestro, who's recovering a few dozen meters away. Inside the Romulan warbird, Commander Sokal sees on his viewer that Sinestro was just knocked back. The tide seemed to be turning. With a glimmer of Romulan opportunism, he seizes his chance. "Target the Green Lantern and Sinestro fire disruptors at both of them," he orders. If he can eliminate both aliens in one go, perhaps the Empire can salvage some pride in this fiasco. The Warbird-S disruptors, now from aft arrays since forward ones are damaged, spit twin emerald beams at the two combatants. It's an indiscriminate attack. Sokal doesn't care that Sinestro-S supposed to be his ally, he-s expendable. Hal-s ring flares a warning. He spins and throws up a Hal spins and throws up a curved green shield just in time to intercept the disruptor beam streaking toward him. The blast splashes across his shield in a blaze of emerald sparks. The other disruptor bolt lances past Hal, straight towards Sinestro. Caught off guard, Sinestro barely erects a yellow barrier. The Romulan blast slams into Sinestro's hastily formed shield and detonates, knocking him end over end through the void. On the Romulan bridge, Commander Sokal seethes at both targets still standing. Before he can order another volley, Sinestro, now floating near the Warbird's bow, turns his glowing eyes on the Romulan ship that dared fire on him. Fury contorts his face. With an enraged snarl, Sinestro unleashes a massive pulse of crackling yellow energy from his ring, directing it point-blank into the Warbird's hull. "Treachery will be punished!" he roars. The yellow blast rips through the already damaged Warbird's engineering section. Inside the Korat, consoles explode and crew are flung like rag dolls. A panicked scream sounds as a secondary explosion rumbles through the ship. Commander Sokal is thrown from his command chair. Alarms begin blaring throughout the Romulan vessel, a shrill warning of a warp core breach. The ship's artificial quantum singularity engine is destabilizing from the damage. Hal watches in horror as the Warbird's aft section erupts in flames. This whole ship is about to go up with everyone on board. "Sinestro, you lunatic!" Hal yells. He knows Sinestro can survive in vacuum, but the Romulan crew cannot. And if that core breaches, it could take Hal, Sinestro, and maybe even the Enterprise with it. Sinestro merely laughs coldly, raising his ring for a finishing blow to the crippled Warbird. But Hal is done letting Sinestro call the shots. With Sinestro momentarily distracted by his own rage, Hal seizes the opening. He summons every bit of willpower he can muster and projects a thick cage of green energy around Sinestro bars, chains, and locking constructs, layering over one another in an instant. "Got you," Hal growls. Sinestro snarls in shock as the emerald prison clamps down on him, pinning his arms. "No, you cannot contain me," he thrashes, flooding the interior of the cage with furious yellow light, trying to smash his way out. The cage trembles but holds. Hal reinforces it with will, gritting his teeth in concentration. But the fight isn't over. Hal's ring pings him with the worst possible warning: warp core breach imminent on the Romulan ship. Through the Warbird's hull portholes, Hal sees panicked Romulan faces in the flickering light. Without immediate action, all those people will be vaporized. Hal acts on instinct and compassion. Using his ring, he rapidly creates dozens of smaller green globes inside the stricken Warbird, each one encasing a group of Romulan crew where they stand. Commander Sokal, struggling to stand amid the chaos of his bridge, suddenly finds himself enveloped by a protective emerald bubble along with his officers. Similar bubbles appear throughout the ship, cradling injured and frightened Romulans. "Enterprise, prepare to beam survivors out of the Warbird now," Hal shouts into his comm, already moving. With a colossal effort of will, he tows the cluster of bubbles containing Romulan survivors out through the gaping rents in the Warbird's hull, dragging them all into open space at top speed. No sooner has he cleared the immediate blast radius than the Romulan Warbird's singularity core goes critical. In a blinding flash, the mighty Korat erupts into a ball of fiery destruction. The shockwave races outward. "Brace for impact!" Picard shouts on the Enterprise bridge as the view screen flares white. The ship rocks as the blast wave slams into its shields. The lights flicker and dim, but the Enterprise holds together. Worf's readouts show the shields absorbing the blow, albeit now down to 60. How? carrying Sinestro-S glowing green prison and towing the chain of Romulan survivor bubbles behind him, is flung forward by the force of the explosion. His ring flares to protect him and those he carries, but he still lets out a grunt of pain as he and his cargo are hurled through space like leaves on the wind. On the Enterprise, Worf quickly regains his footing at tactical. "Captain, I am picking up life signs Romulan and human and Hal S energy signature. They re-intact, sir." A great collective breath of relief is exhaled on the bridge. "Lock on and beam them directly to the ship emergency transport," Picard commands. In sickbay and in the brig, shimmering columns of light appear as the Enterprise-S transporters engage at maximum capacity. One by one, Romulan survivors materialize in sickbay, where Dr. Crusher and her team spring into action to tend to the injured and stun any who reach for weapons. In the brig, a large green bubble containing a furious Sinestro materializes inside a force field cell, with Hal Jordan appearing beside it, collapsing to one knee from exhaustion. Hal looks up to see two security officers training phasers on the glowing bubble that holds Sinestro. He takes a deep breath. They made it. "Deactivate my construct," Hal pants to the security chief. He is not going anywhere, but keep those force fields up. With a nod, Hal allows the emerald cage to dissipate. Sinestro drops to the deck of the brig cell with a thud, immediately leaping up in rage. But a second containment field, the Enterprise-S own security force field, hums between Sinestro and freedom. The red-skinned villain slams a yellow glowing fist against the invisible wall and recoils as it sparks. For the first time, Sinestro finds himself truly trapped. Within seconds, Worf and two more security personnel rush into the brig, phasers drawn. Sinestro glares at them with unbridled malice, but stays silent, chest heaving. Hal staggers back to his feet, drained but victorious. He sees Sinestro-S ring still on his nemesis S finger, flickering with weakened power. They can leave Sinestro a chance to escape. Captain Picard strides into the brig, Riker and Troy on his heels. Picard's stern gaze falls on their new prisoner. "Sinestro, I presume," he says evenly. Sinestro bares his teeth in a mockery of a grin. "You have no idea what you've just done, Picard." He spits the name. "You think a simple cell can hold me? You are out of your depth." Picard remains as cool as an alpine lake. "On the contrary, I think we understand enough that you are a dangerous individual who is now under guard. You will be treated humanely as our prisoner, but make no mistake, you will not leave that cell as long as you are on this ship." Sinestro opens his mouth to retort, but Hal steps up to the force field S edge, holding out his ringed hand towards Sinestro. "Your ring, Sinestro. It S over." Sinestro-S eyes widen as he realizes Hal S intent. "Never," he snarls, clenching his fist as if to hang on to his ring by sheer will. But Hal concentrates streams of green energy snake into the cell and pry at Sinestro-S yellow ring. Weakened and exhausted as he is, Sinestro can stop it. With a final yank, the yellow ring slips off his finger and flies into Hal S' waiting grasp. The instant it S removed, Sinestro loses the aura of yellow light around him. He lunges at the force field in fury. "Give that back," he howls, slamming his palms against the unyielding barrier. But without the ring, he is merely a very angry man. The field doesn't budge. Hal tucks Sinestro-S ring securely into a compartment on his belt. Not a chance. He exchanges a look with Worf and the other security officers. "Keep that field up. He is a normal guy now, but he is still dangerous." Worf gives a satisfied nod, finally allowing a hint of a smile at seeing this galactic menace defanged. "We'll keep a close watch on him," the Klingon assures. Picard turns to Hal, a warm smile breaking through the tension on his face. "Mr. Jordan, Hal, I cannot possibly thank you enough. You saved not only our lives, but the lives of the Romulan crew as well. Individuals who, moments earlier, were prepared to fire on you. That was an extraordinary act of heroism and mercy." Hal rubs the back of his neck, suddenly a bit bashful amid the praise. "All in a day is work for a Green Lantern, I guess," he says with a tired grin. "I wasn't about to let all those people die, no matter what side they were on." His eyes drift to Sinestro, who is sunk into a brooding silence in the cell's corner, glowering at nothing. Counselor Troy steps forward, giving Hal a gentle, sincere smile. "We are all so grateful, Hal. That was incredibly brave. And I sensed your determination and concern every step of the way." Hal shrugs modestly. "I couldn't have done it without all of you. The Enterprise crew, you guys, you backed me up every step, and you took huge risks to do the right thing. If anything, you all impressed me." He looks around at each of them, the faces of these newfound friends. In the ensuing minutes, the Enterprise crew secures Sinestro in the brig. Dr. Crusher even pops in to administer a sedative through the force field, ensuring the raging ex-Lantern calms down to a sullen, groggy state. The Romulan survivors, including Commander Sokal, are treated for injuries in sickbay and kept under guard. An uneasy but civil communication is opened with a nearby Romulan ship to arrange their return. The Romulan Empire, Picard knows, will want to sweep this embarrassing incident under the rug, a fact he can leverage to ensure they don to protest Hal Jordan-S presence or Starfleet-S handling of the situation. Later, in the Enterprise Observation Lounge, Captain Picard convenes his senior staff and their special guest to decide the next steps. Sinestro is captured. The immediate danger is over. Now comes the question of sending Hal and Sinestro, though under lock and key, back to where they belong. Around the long conference table sit Picard, Riker, Data, Geordi, sporting some soot on his uniform but grinning nonetheless, Troy, and Dr. Crusher, who had joined to provide an update on the Romulan survivors and any medical concerns regarding dimensional travel. Hal Jordan stands at Picard's left, arms folded in thought. The mood in the room is optimistic. They've done the impossible twice today, saved an entire civilization, and stopped a villain with power beyond Federation experience. Data and Geordi have been crunching numbers and theories on how to recreate the dimensional wormhole that brought Hal here. A holographic diagram of subspace fields hovers over the table as Data explains. In theory, the exotic particles from Hal's transit still exist at a quantum level. If we emit an inverse tachyon beam from the main deflector, tuned to the precise frequency of those particles, he highlights a sharp spectral spike on the hologram. We may be able to induce another dimensional rift. Geordi picks up, excitement in his voice. Exactly. We'd basically be recreating the anomaly under controlled conditions. The tricky part is matching the resonance of Hal's ring energy that originally opened the portal. But if Hal can calibrate his ring to the same energy signature it had during the transit, basically retrace his steps, and then push at the fabric of space when we fire the deflector, it might punch a hole right back to my universe, Hal finishes, nodding. I get it. My ring can definitely hold whatever frequency we need. I recorded a lot of telemetry when I was yanked through the ring, remembers. Dr. Crusher adds, "What about Sinestro? We'll need to send him back as well. I assume preferably directly into the custody of these guardians of yours, Hal. But we should ensure he stays sedated throughout the process. I can keep him under medically for a few more hours safely." Picard agrees emphatically. "By all means, Doctor. The last thing we need is our prisoner waking up mid-transfer." He looks around at his crew, pride evident. "All right, we have a plan. Mr. LaForge, Mr. Data, get to engineering and begin configuring the deflector for a high-powered inverse tachyon burst. Counselor Troy, coordinate with Hal on preparing his ring and also on keeping our guest calm," he says with a wry smirk, referring to Sinestro. Riker chimes in. "We should also move to a clear area of space. The neutral zone isn't exactly ideal for an experiment like this, and we don't want Romulan observers anyway." Picard nods, already plotted. "Ensign, set course for the Berthold system. It's uninhabited and a good distance from prying eyes. Warp 8. The staff disperse with affirmatives. Geordi and Data head off to work their technological magic. Worf returns to oversee security and keep a very close eye on Sinestro. Troy accompanies Hal to the shuttle bay to retrieve a certain item. Hal's power battery, a green lantern-shaped portable charger for his ring, which by great fortune had been pulled through the wormhole and later found drifting by the Enterprise crew. In the shuttle bay, Hal stands before the Emerald Lantern battery, a curious relic among all this futuristic Starfleet equipment. "I'll just need a moment," he says to Troy and Geordi, who came to observe. Holding the battery forth, Hal touches his ring to it. The lantern glows fiercely as Hal intones, "In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil might beware my power, green lantern light." The battery flares, flooding the bay with green radiance. Energy surges back into Hal's ring, fully recharging it. Geordi shields his eyes momentarily. Astonished at the readings, his visor picks up power levels off the scale, yet somehow contained and directed wholly into that tiny ring. Fully recharged and ready, Hal secures Sinestro's confiscated yellow ring in a small energy-proof container the Enterprise provided. No one wants that thing accidentally finding a new host. The Enterprise reaches the designated quiet sector of space. Over the next hours, every necessary preparation is made. Sinestro is kept unconscious and under a level 10 restraining field in the transporter room, watched by Worf and 2 armed guards. The Romulan survivors, now stabilized, are confined to quarters under guard until they can be handed over to a Romulan rescue ship at the neutral zone. Later, that situation has been delicately handled by Picard to avoid sparking an incident. All that remains is to send Hal and Sinestro home. On the bridge, Picard looks around at his crew. Each person gives a ready nod. In the transporter room, Hal stands on the platform with Sinestro's limp, restrained form in a containment pod beside him, both of them ready to be enveloped in the dimensional transit. Hal has his power battery clipped to his belt for the journey, and his ring is humming with energy. "Mr. LaForge," Picard calls. "Deflector power at maximum. Commence dimensional burst on my mark." Geordi's voice comes from engineering, steady and clear. "Deflector is charged and holding, Captain. Coordinates locked on the quantum signature of Hal's universe as provided by his ring." Data adds from the science station. "Anomalous readings are within expected parameters. All systems ready." Picard opens a channel to Hal, his voice echoing in the transporter room. Hal, everything is set on our end. It has been a privilege. Hal, standing tall in his Green Lantern uniform one last time aboard the Enterprise, presses 2 fingers to his brow in a respectful salute. The privilege was mine, Captain. I can thank you and your crew enough. You ever find yourselves in my neck of the multiverse, you've got friends waiting. He grins. On the bridge, Riker gives a thumbs up to the view screen. Safe travels, Hal. Try not to crash any more starships on your way home. A gentle laugh ripples across the bridge. Even Worf allows a small chuckle at that. Picard chuckles too. Farewell, Green Lantern. Godspeed. Hal nods firmly. He looks down at Sinestro-S unconscious form, locked in a shimmering pod at his feet. Time to send you to Oa, you maniac, he mutters to the sleeping Sinestro, imagining the reception the Guardians and Corps will give this troublemaker. Hal closes his eyes and concentrates. Ring, it is up to us now. Let us go home. He attunes the ring to the exact multi-dimensional frequency they calculated, essentially making himself a living beacon for the Deflector-S energy to lock on to. Engage, Picard commands. In engineering, Geordi activates the sequence. The Enterprise-S deflector dish fires a brilliant stream of energy and inverse tachyon burst, combined with precisely modulated subspace vibrations. Out in front of the ship, space begins to distort and swirl with prismatic colors. Hal-S ring resonates as the beam hits the fabric of reality. A glowing hole, like a circular window into a green-tinged void, starts to form. It's the portal opening about 50 meters ahead of the ship, crackling with both Starfleet-generated energy and Hal-S emerald power. We have an aperture, Data announces. Dimensional rift is stable and holding at 200 meters in diameter. In the transporter room, the transporter chief gives Hal a thumbs up, energizing. With a cascade of shimmering lights, Hal and Sinestro-S containment pod dematerialize off the transporter pad. A fraction of a second later, they rematerialize in open space, right in front of the swirling portal. Hal now floats beside the churning boundary of the gateway home. Behind him, the majestic Enterprise-D hovers at a safe distance, its deflector still channeling energy to keep the rift open. Hal takes a moment to look back at the Enterprise. On the bridge, through the main viewer, Picard and the others watch the Green Lantern raise a glowing green fist in a fond farewell salute. Hal-S voice comes over the open channel one last time. Enterprise, thank you for everything. Until we meet again, Jordan out. With that, Hal Jordan carrying Sinestro-S secured pod in tow with a band of green energy turns and flies into the swirling portal. In a flash of light, the Green Lantern and his prisoner vanish into the dimensional tunnel. The portal snaps shut behind them with a thunderclap, then is gone. The stars of normal space twinkle where it once was, as if nothing ever happened. On the Enterprise bridge, there's a hush. It is not sadness, exactly, but a kind of reverent awe at what they've all just witnessed, and at the unlikely ally who just departed. Riker breaks the silence softly, a smile tugging at his beard. Just another day in Starfleet, huh, Captain? Picard leans back in his chair, a rare, broad grin on his face. Quite. It seems even in this century, we still full of surprises. Course plotted back to our original mission, sir, Ensign Khan reports from the helm, though her voice carries the astonishment they all feel. Picard stands and straightens his uniform. Make it so, Ensign. Warp factor 6. He takes one last glance at the viewer, at the empty space where a remarkable man in green once hovered. Then, with a mixture of pride and wonder, Picard gives the order, "Engage." The Enterprise-D turns gracefully and jumps to warp, streaking into the distance. The stars elongate into shimmering ribbons, and the hum of the engines settles into the familiar, comforting resonance that permeates the great starship like a heartbeat. On the bridge, the tension of the last several hours drains slowly from the crew, leaving behind a mixture of exhaustion and reflective awe. They have survived yet another unimaginable encounter, and though they are accustomed to the extraordinary, today's events left a mark even on the most seasoned officers. Picard allows himself a long breath and glances briefly toward the empty space on the view screen where the dimensional rift once flickered. He imagines Hal Jordan soaring through that impossible tunnel, the emerald light of his willpower reflecting off the unknown. For a moment, Picard's mind lingers on the strange comfort he felt in Hal's presence. There was an idealism in that man, an unyielding courage that echoed the Federation's highest values. The thought warms him as he shifts in his chair and prepares to turn his attention back to the Enterprise's routine mission. But the universe rarely offers a moment of true peace. Sensors chirp unexpectedly at Data's station, a subtle anomaly, barely a blip. But Data's optic sensors narrow as he studies the readings. Something about it doesn't align with any natural warp eddy or subspace fluctuation. Picard notices. "Mr. Data." Data tilts his head a fraction. "Captain, I am detecting a faint residual quantum signature, consistent with the energy patterns associated with the dimensional rift." Riker straightens slightly in his chair. "Residual? How faint, almost immeasurable." "But not non-existent," Data replies. "It appears the dimensional breach left behind a lingering footprint on local subspace." Picard frowns softly. Could it be dangerous? Data's fingers glide over the console, analyzing the data. "Unknown, sir. At present, the disturbance is stable. However, if additional energy were introduced at the same resonance frequency, it could induce further spatial distortions." Troy leans forward, troubled. "I can sense anything, Captain, but something feels unfinished, like a door that wasn't entirely closed." Riker exhales through his nose. "Let us hope it is just echoes." But even as he says it, the Enterprise shudders. A tremor rolls through the deck, plating small but wholly out of place at warp. Picard grips the armrests as the ship steadies. "Report," he commands. Worf's brow furrows deeply as he checks tactical. "Captain, a subspace shockwave just struck us. No known natural source." Dropping out of warp, Picard orders immediately. The stars compress and settle into stationary points of light as the ship returns to impulse. On screen, the view screen reveals calm, empty space. Nothing but a dusting of stars and the faint glow of a distant red nebula. Riker shakes his head. "I don't see anything." Data's fingers move precisely, detecting a localized subspace rupture forming off the port bow. On cue, space begins to twist. A faint ripple appears, like a smudge on glass. It swells, shimmering with faint green and yellow flickers, colors the crew now associate with forces far beyond their own. Troy inhales sharply. "Captain, I feel something on the other side of that rupture. A presence. Several. They refaint, but intense. Almost like minds pushing against a barrier." Worf stiffens. Could Sinestro have escaped? Picard's jaw clenches. Impossible. He was delivered to Hal Jordan and secured on OA. Nevertheless, Worf replies, that energy signature looks similar to the one surrounding his ring. The rupture stabilizes suddenly, forming a circular distortion no larger than a shuttlecraft. It convulses chaotically, as if something is forcing its way through, but failing. Data observes closely. The aperture appears unstable. Whatever is attempting to cross cannot achieve full phase alignment. A shrill burst of energy arcs outward. The ship jolts again. Geordi's voice crackles over the comm line from engineering. Captain, that burst caused a feedback spike in our warp plasma injectors. I am compensating, but that thing's rattling our subspace field. Picard nods tightly. Understood. Data, can we stabilize the rupture? Negative, Captain. We can only observe. External interference may cause additional stress. The rupture flares violently, its color shifting sharply to emerald green. Then, just as abruptly, it snaps shut. The space before them falls still. Silence grips the bridge. Worf releases a slow exhale. The anomaly has disappeared. Riker shakes his head. What was that? Data scans the area once more. Captain, I am detecting a residual energy trail consistent with high-velocity warp transit, but the trail does not match any Federation, Romulan, Klingon, or known Delta Quadrant warp signature. Picard's gaze narrows. Then who or what did we just witness? Troy shivers slightly. Whatever it was, it felt frightened, and powerful, and angry. Before Picard can respond, a soft chime sounds from the tactical console, a new alert, subtle but insistent. Worf checks it, and his eyes widen. Captain, we are being hailed. Riker's expression tightens. By whom? Worf hesitates for the smallest fraction of a second. Captain, the origin point is inside the Rupture's last coordinates, but there is no ship there. Picard stands slowly, on speakers. A faint, static-laced voice fills the bridge, harsh, distorted, yet unmistakably burdened. Enterprise, this is Hal Jordan. Come in, Picard, I need the transmission cuts abruptly. On the bridge, everyone freezes. Riker leans forward. That was Hal. Troy nods, her eyes wide. He's in distress. Pain, fear, but not rooted in himself. It's external. Something is chasing him. Worf attempts to reacquire the signal. The transmission is not repeating. No identifiable carrier wave. Picard wastes no time. Helm, set course along the last detected energy trail. Maximum warp. Course laid in, sir. Picard lowers himself into his chair, voice resolute. Engage. The stars stretch once again, and the Enterprise plunges into the unknown. 2 hours into warp pursuit, the trail grows stronger. The energy readings intensify, and mixed within the ever-growing spillage of green power is something else yellow, crackling with volatility. Data reports, Captain. I detect a second energy signature entwined with the first. It appears to be a construct of unknown origin. Riker looks uneasy. Sinestro? Unlikely, Data replies. Sinestro was fully sedated. Moreover, this signature does not match his previous patterns. It is less refined. Then what does it match? Picard asks. Data's voice is calm. It exhibits properties similar to Hal Jordan's constructs, Captain, but corrupted, as if shaped by force, not will. Troy's voice trembles. Something has contaminated Hal's energy, something invasive. Picard stands, slow to impulse. Prepare long-range visual. When the ship drops to sublight, the view screen pulses with an image that makes even Worf's heart thud harder in his chest. A massive structure drifted ahead, as dark as obsidian and shaped like a twisted star. Jagged green and yellow tendrils pulse from its edges, leaking raw energy into open space. It looks alive, like a wounded creature clutching itself. Riker S. mouth hangs open. What is it? Data S sensors sweep the object. Captain, this construct is made entirely from willpower and fear energy. Interwoven, impossible. Such a structure should collapse. Troy whispers, someone built that in desperation. Picard's gaze sharpens. Locate Hal Jordan. Data isolates a faint signal emanating from the structure. Life sign detected. Human. Weak. Picard turns to Worf. Ray shields. Red alert. The klaxons blare. The bridge shifts to scarlet. Riker steps forward, eyes locked on the screen. Captain, looks like Hal tried to build something. Something huge. Maybe a ship. Maybe a fortress. Picard's voice grows soft with dread. Or a prison. The structure pulses, and a jagged tear begins to form at its center. Troy winces. The pain is unbearable. Whatever is inside it wants out. Before anyone can react, the construct explodes outward. A shockwave of pure green energy erupts from its heart. The Enterprise rocks under the force, shields flaring. Worf clings to tactical as sparks fly. And then a figure emerges from the shattered remains, flying fast. Green light streaks behind him, but the glow flickers erratically, tainted by yellow veins of corrupt energy. It is Hal Jordan, barely conscious, barely whole, and something is chasing him. Behind Hal, ripping itself free from the collapsing construct, is a monstrous entity of writhing yellow energy. A distorted shape like some ancient beast forged from nightmares. Its jaws gape with shrieking resonance, its form constantly shifting. Riker stares. What in God's name is that? Data examines the spectral readings. Captain, that entity is composed entirely of fear energy. It may be a parasitic manifestation from Hal's corrupted constructs. Troy feels her throat tighten. It's alive, and it hates him. The creature surges forward. Hal's strained voice pierces the comm channel, raw and panicked. Enterprise Picard, it is parallax static. The fear entity lunges. Picard wastes no time. Open the bay doors. Prepare to bring him in. But Hal suddenly stops fleeing. He turns toward the creature, and with the last strength he seems to have, he raises his ring. Not this time. Picard's eyes widen. A massive surge of green light erupts around Hal. It spirals outward, condenses, shapes itself, and before the astonished eyes of everyone aboard the Enterprise, a colossal starship materializes. Around Hal Jordan, a green glowing construct of incredible size and complexity. Its hull shines like polished emerald crystal, yet moves with the fluid grace of something alive. Turrets of energy rotate along its sides. Wings sweep out in a dramatic curve. Engines pulse with raw willpower. A Green Lantern starship, pure construct, pure will, made for war. None of the Enterprise crew can speak for a moment. Picard's voice finally breaks through, a whisper of reverence. He built a ship. The Lantern warship's thrusters ignite. Hal's voice echoes across the comm, ragged but resolute. Captain, I am not letting that thing reach your universe. The fear entity roars in defiance and charges forward. And Hal Jordan's ship charges to meet it, two titanic forces of will and terror crashing together in a storm of light that rivals the birth of a star. The view screen erupts in blinding color, and the real battle begins. The explosion of light that follows is almost too much for the Enterprise S sensors to handle. On the bridge, the main viewer flares white, then slowly auto-adjusts as filters compensate, revealing a scene that looks like a painting of gods at war. Hal's construct ship, a gleaming emerald predator, surges forward with impossible acceleration. Its prow cuts through the void like a spearhead of light. Every line of its design reflects Hal's instincts as a test pilot and tactician. Sleek, aerodynamic curves, even in the vacuum of space. A forward wedge reinforced with layered structural will. Flaring wings that double as both maneuvering surfaces and weapon arrays. Opposite it, the fear entity roils and stretches into a vast, nightmarish form. It has no fixed shape, only impressions of claws, maws, eyes that bubble into existence and then melt away. Wherever it goes, the stars behind it seem to dim, swallowed by a haze of sickly yellow radiance. Magnify, Picard orders quietly. The image zooms in. The green warship glows brighter, like an emerald sun encased in a hull. The fear creature lets out a soundless screaming ripple that nonetheless seems to vibrate in the bones of the crew. "Captain," Data says from Ops, "I am registering energy levels equivalent to the detonation of a Class 3 quantum singularity every 2.7 seconds. The forces at play are extraordinary." Troy grips the arms of her chair, the fear radiating from that thing it's overwhelming. "If we were any closer, I am not sure the crew could withstand it without breaking." Picard glances sideways at her. "Can you sense Hal?" She closes her eyes, focusing. Yes, he's in the center of that ship construct. Determination, terror, guilt, but under it all will, unbreakable will. On the screen, the yellow entity hurls itself at Hal's ship. Tendrils of fear energy lash out, slamming into the glowing hull. The lantern vessel staggers, its light flickering where the tendrils strike. For a moment, it looks like it might buckle under the strain. Instead, the green ship responds. Emerald turrets along its dorsal spine swivel and fire, launching lances of concentrated willpower that slice through the fear energy like cutting torches. Each beam punches a temporary hole in the creature's form, scattering droplets of yellow that quickly coalesce again. Inside the construct, Hal Jordan stands in what passes for a command center, a glowing emerald chamber that mimics the cockpit of a starfighter, scaled up and wrapped in the architecture of imagination. There are no physical controls, only projections, a panoramic starfield ahead, tactical schematics formed of light, targeting reticles that respond to his thoughts, sweat beads on his forehead despite the rink's environmental systems. He's exhausted, his muscles aching from the earlier ordeal inside the fear-infested structure. But his eyes are locked forward, blazing with focus. "Ring," he gasps. "Status. Power level at 67%. Structural integrity of construct ship at 81%. Fear entity designated as parallax manifestation continues to pursue. Tactical prediction. Continued direct engagement will result in critical energy depletion within 6 minutes at current expenditure." "Yeah, no kidding," Hal mutters. Another tendril slams into the left wing of the ship. The construct buckles, momentarily dimming before his will throws more energy into it, reinforcing the shape. "We are not dying here. Not again." Parallax surges closer, mouth-like voids opening in its surface as it tries to engulf the emerald vessel. Hal grits his teeth and commands the ship to roll hard to port. It responds like a living extension of his body, swinging out of the creature's grasp with a snap that sends green contrails spiraling behind it. On the Enterprise bridge, Riker leans forward, unable to hide his amazement. "He's flying that thing like it's a fighter jet." Data nods. "Correct. The construct bears strong resemblance to several 20th and 21st century combat aircraft in its flight profile. scaled to starship dimensions and supplemented with reactionless thrust. Hal Jordan is employing a variable geometry evasion pattern reminiscent of atmospheric dogfights. A fresh wave of yellow energy erupts from parallax, a cone of ripping fear that spreads wide like a shock wave. Hal's ship dives straight into it. The green hull groans under the invisible assault, its glow flickering where the wave touches it. In Hal's mind, the fear tries to seep in. Visions flash unbidden across his inner eye, Coast City leveling under a blast of destruction, the Guardians turning their backs on him, Sinestro laughing over the corpses of his friends, the Enterprise torn open, its crew frozen in the void. Every regret, every failure. Parallax's voice slithers into his thoughts, 1,000 whispering tongues made of dread. You cannot protect them, Hal Jordan. You never could. You think willpower is enough to challenge fear? You are a child with a toy, standing against eternity. For a heartbeat, Hal feels himself falter. His grip on the construct wavers, the corridors around him dimming as his focus slips. On the Enterprise, Troy gasps aloud. He is losing ground. That thing is pressing into his psyche. It is not just attacking the ship, it is attacking him. Picard stands, jaw clenched. We can just sit and watch. Options? Geordi's voice comes from engineering. If we get closer, that fear field could mess with the crew's judgment, Captain. But maybe we can hit the yellow entity with a deflector pulse, try to disrupt its cohesion. Data tilts his head. Captain, analysis suggests that the fear entity's primary vulnerability is willpower itself. Our weapons are unlikely to affect it significantly. However, we may support Hal Jordan indirectly. How? Riker asks. Data looks almost thoughtful, though his face remains composed. Hal's constructs respond to his emotional state. If his will falters, his construct ship weakens. If we can give him something to anchor, his will reinforce it, we may increase the ship's effectiveness. Troy stares at him, astonished. You want to send him encouragement? In a manner of speaking, Counselor, Data replies. We may remind him he is not alone. Picard nods slowly. Open a channel, all ship, audio only, patch it to him. Worf works quickly. Channel open, sir. Picard's voice goes ship-wide, and, with Worf's adjustments, also reaches the glowing emerald cockpit, forming itself around Hal. Hal, Picard says, his tone steady and clear. This is Jean-Luc Picard. You are not alone out there. Hal hears the words as if they blossom in the air around him. For a moment, Parallax-S whispers falter. We are here with you, Picard continues. You saved our lives. You saved the lives of our enemies. That fear you are facing now, it is powerful, yes, but it is not invincible. You have already beaten it once when you chose mercy over vengeance. Remember that. Riker adds his voice, rich and steady. We've seen what you can do, Hal. You built a ship out of thin air. You took on a Romulan warbird and won. Compared to that, this fear monster is just one more target, right? Troy closes her eyes, reaching out with her empathy, and speaks softly but firmly. Hal, I can feel you. You are afraid, and that is okay. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. That is what you've been doing since the moment we met you. Geordi chimes in over the channel as well. Hey, you fly that thing like it is an extension of your soul. Show this thing what human engineering and lantern imagination can really do. Even Worf's deep voice joins. We stand as warriors beside you, Hal Jordan. Let the enemy know that you are backed by the crew of a Klingon-worthy starship. In the glowing cockpit, Hal lets out a shuddering breath. Their voices, layered together, cut through Parallax-esque poisonous whispering. The visions of failure recede, replaced by images of the bridge crew standing together, facing down danger with calm determination. Picard-esque steady gaze, Data-esque curiosity, Worf-esque proud defiance, Troy-esque compassion. Something inside Hal clicks back into place. He smiles, just a little. Ring, he murmurs. Update, power level at 64%. Emotional fortitude restored. External motivational input has increased willpower efficiency by 23%. Hal chuckles weakly. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right then. We're not doing this alone. He straightens, the cockpit brightening in response to his renewed focus. Let S show this thing what happens when a lantern and a starship crew work together. He opens the channel. Enterprise thanks for the pep talk. Let S dance. Parallax senses the shift. It recoils slightly, its amorphous body rippling in annoyance as the ship it almost consumed suddenly grows brighter, more defined. Hal points both hands forward, and the constructs respond. Outside, the Emerald warship changes shape. Wing surfaces crack open to reveal new weapon arrays. A dorsal spinal ridge extends, reshaping itself into something like a railgun cannon. Smaller pods detach from the hull and take up flanking positions, fighter-sized constructs shaped like sleek arrowhead craft, each one a miniaturized echo of the main ship. Riker whistles under his breath. He just launched fighters, made of light. Data S readings confirm. Multiple autonomous constructs, each operating as a semi-independent extension of Hal Jordan S. will. Fascinating. Hal S. voice rings with renewed confidence. Enterprise, I am about to push this thing. Stay clear of my forward arc. I am going to herd Parallax away from you. Understood, Picard replies. We will maintain distance, but we're not leaving. Hal grins. Didn't think you would. He focuses on his newly formed fighter swarm. Okay, you beautiful little green death darts go to work. The Emerald fighters streak toward Parallax in a loose formation, weaving around one another like a flock of birds. The fear entity lashes out, swatting at them with tendrils of yellow energy, but each fighter dodges with preternatural precision, rolling and diving around the attacks. When they fire, it's not phaser beams or missiles, but concentrated spikes of sheer will that punch through Parallax's amorphous body, tearing chunks of yellow essence free. The entity howls a psychic screech that sends a shiver through Troy's mind. She winces, clutching her temples. It is angry, very angry. It is starting to focus solely on Hal now. It wants to break him. On screen, Parallax abandons its attempt to spread itself wide. Instead, it condenses, compacting into a more streamlined, lethal form, like a titanic serpent of yellow fire. It coils around the green fighters, snapping its jaws at them. Each time it devours one, the construct dissolves, and Hal feels the corresponding tug on his energy reserves. Power level at 52%. Yeah, I feel it, Hal mutters. We can just whittle this thing down. He narrows his eyes. We need to pin it, contain it. Enterprise, can you still fire your deflector in a focused subspace burst? Geordi answers immediately. We can, but it wanted to hurt that thing. I don't need it to hurt it, Hal says. I need it to cage it. If you can project a temporary subspace containment field, I can wrap something around that and lock it down. Picard considers fast. Data, can we tune the deflector to project a phase variance bubble around the fear entity? Data runs the calculations with blinding speed. Yes, Captain. We can create a highly localized multiphasic shell. It will last no more than 40 seconds before collapsing. That'll have to be enough, Hal says. Get ready. On my mark, hit it. I'll drive it right into the center. Picard nods. Make it so, Mr. Data. Aboard the Enterprise, engineering and the main deflector control teams scramble, aligning power conduits, adjusting modulation patterns. Down in the deflector control room, Geordi personally supervises the fine-tuning, barking, rapid-fire instructions to his team. All right, people, think of this like we were trying to grab a sandstorm with a force field. We're gonna shape subspace itself. No pressure. Back outside, the Lantern warship angles toward Parallax again, thrusters flaring. Hal pulls the construct into a tight loop, his fighters regrouping at his flanks. He dives straight at the yellow serpent, daring it to come after him. Parallax obliges. It coils tighter, its glowing maw opening to swallow the ship whole. Fear bleeds off it in waves, each one gnawing at the edges of Hal's courage. But now the voices of his new allies stand like a wall between him and despair. He rolls the ship onto its side, skimming just along the edge of the Entity's coils. The emerald hull brushes against the yellow essence, sparks flying like static. Parallax lunges, snapping at the tail of the ship, chasing. Bring it in closer, Hal snarls. Come on, Troy, watches with her heart in her throat. He is deliberately provoking it, making himself look vulnerable so it closes its coils around him. Worf growls low, a dangerous tactic. An effective one, Picard replies softly. On cue, Parallax surges forward, fully wrapping itself around the green vessel. Hal is now at the center of a crushing spiral of fear energy. Every meter of his ship's hull is pressed by the yellow coils, trying to crush it, trying to seep into it, trying to get to him. The lights in his cockpit flicker. Power level at 41%. Now, Enterprise, Hal shouts. The bridge, Picard slashes his hand downward. Fire. The main deflector dish unleashes a concentrated burst of multiphasic energy. The beam hits the twisted coil where Parallax wraps around the construct ship. Space itself shimmers, distorts, and then snaps into a new configuration. Around Parallax, an invisible shell forms a spherical pocket of warped subspace that clamps down like an enormous intangible fist. The fear entity's body distorts as it slams into the newly formed barrier. It thrashes, shrieking, its tendrils battering against the limits of its cage. The field is holding, Data reports, but not for long. Estimated duration, 36 seconds. Inside the coil, Hal feels the sudden change, a new kind of pressure squeezing from outside. His ring feeds him telemetry. Subspace containment field detected. Opportunity. Let us lock you down, Hal growls. He pours his will into the construct ship. Outside, emerald tendrils extrude from the hull, anchoring themselves into the inner surface of the subspace bubble wherever Parallax presses outward. The green energy weaves quickly, latching onto yellow, wrapping around it. The ship itself begins to reshape, unfurling like a flower blooming inside a glass sphere. Within seconds, the construct has become a net, a lattice of glowing green filament that threads itself through every part of the fear entity's condensed body. The more Parallax struggles, the tighter the net pulls. On the Enterprise, Worf stares, almost impressed despite himself. He is snaring it. Data narrates. Hal Jordan is using the deflector-S subspace bubble as a framework, creating a construct binding pattern aligned precisely to the bubble-S curvature. The more the entity pushes, the more entangled it becomes. But Parallax is not merely a beast. It is cunning. It stops thrashing and instead compresses itself inward, shrinking its bulk, forcing the green lattice closer and closer to Hal's central position. Yellow funnels inward through the gaps, stabbing toward the heart of the construct where Hal will resides. Troy gasps. It changing tactics. It going straight for him. Within the cockpit, Hal feels fear like a blade at his throat. The yellow essence pours in like smoke, coiling toward him. His ring-S aura flickers as the fear burrows, seeking weakness. "You cannot cage fear, Hal Jordan," the entity hisses in his mind. "I will live inside you. I will wear you like armor. You cannot bind what you refuse to confront." Hal grits his teeth. He knows Parallax is right about one thing. As long as he tries to just lock it away without facing it, the fight will never truly end. His thoughts race. A memory surfaces. The Guardian speaking of Parallax as an ancient force that once infected the central power battery. A sleeping parasite in the heart of willpower itself. They never destroyed it. They only contained it. He realizes with a cold clarity that what he is facing now may be a fragment of that same primordial terror, peace that hitchhiked along the dimensional rift when his ring channeled godlike energies to bridge universes. "Captain," he says tightly, "I think I know where this thing came from. When we opened that portal, something was hiding in the power. It followed me. It's part of an ancient fear entity the Guardians locked away ages ago. They didn't destroy it. They just buried it. And when my ring juiced up to multiversal levels, it shook a piece of that loose. It hitched a ride inside me." Troy opens her eyes, understanding dawning. "That's why you were so vulnerable to it at first. It has been with you since you returned home." "Yeah," Hal says grimly. "Looks like it. This isn't just any fear monster. This is Parallax. The real deal, or at least a shard of it." Riker glances at Picard. Can he beat something like that alone? Hal hears the question, even as Parallax presses closer, its essence licking at the edges of his mind. He answers before Picard can. "No, not alone," he says. "But I didn't get here alone, did I?" He takes a breath, centering himself. Then he does something he has never tried before. "Ring," he says quietly. "Link. Specify parameters. Open a channel," Hal says. "Not just audio. I want resonance. Connect to the Enterprise-S deflector harmonics. Sync my will with theirs. Use the crew-S emotional spectrum as a stabilizer." On the Enterprise, consoles flicker as the main deflector suddenly registers a handshake signal from Hal's ring. Geordi yelps in surprise. Captain Hal's ring is trying to piggyback off our deflector matrix. It's asking for a synchronization." "Is there any danger?" Picard asks. Data studies the incoming signal. The risk is moderate. However, if successful, the process may establish a temporary empathic link between Hal's willpower and the general emotional field of the Enterprise crew. In layman-s terms, he is attempting to draw on our collective resilience as reinforcement. Troy's eyes widen. He's asking us to share a piece of ourselves with him. Our calm, our courage, our hope. Picard doesn't hesitate. "Do it." Geordi grins despite the tension. "All right then, let S lend our lantern some backbone." He authorizes the link. The deflector dish hums with a new tone, transmitting a subtle pattern of energy that resonates with the hearts and minds aboard the ship. It is not mind reading, nor is it mind control. It is something gentler, a resonance field tuned to the calm focus of the crew in crisis, the practiced courage of Starfleet officers. In Hal's cockpit, the world changes. He feels them, not their thoughts, not their private fears, but their steady presence, as if 1,000 hands are pressed lightly on his shoulders, bracing him, as if he stands not alone in a glowing sphere of will, but surrounded by the Enterprise bridge crew on all sides. Picard stands beside him in his imagination, unflinching. Riker is at his back, grinning a little, unafraid. Data watches with shining curiosity. Worf stands, like a wall between him and despair. Troy's empathy wraps around him like a warm blanket. Geordius' ingenuity hums beneath his feet like an engine. Hal laughs, a raw, joyous sound, even as the yellow smoke curls toward him. "Parallax," he says, "you made one big mistake." "And what is that, little lantern?" the entity hisses. "You thought I was afraid of fear," Hal replies. "I'm not. I've lived with it my whole life. I've flown into it. I've jumped across universes with it pounding in my chest. Fear isn't the enemy. Letting it control you is." He opens his arms inside the construct, metaphorically embracing the terror pressing in. And I am not alone anymore. Green light erupts from him, not as a defensive bubble this time, but as a surge that moves through the yellow essence like a shock wave of understanding. It doesn't reject the fear. It moves alongside it, through it, acknowledging its existence, but refusing to bow to it. Parallax shrieks, fragments of its form spasming. "No, you belong to me, your doubts, your pain, your failures." "Yeah," Hal says softly, "those are mine, and I am still here. You don't get to drive." The green energy shifts tone, becoming not just rigid will, but something almost compassionate, an unyielding acceptance of his own flaws. It spreads through the lattice he created, turning every thread of the net into a conduit for that insight. Fear without control begins to unravel. On the Enterprise, Troy gasps as she feels the change. He's doing something remarkable. He's not fighting fear. He's integrating it, accepting it as a part of himself, but not letting it rule him. Data S readings flash with new patterns. The entity S energy amplitude is decreasing. Its coherence is fracturing. Outside, the emerald net tightens one final time. Parallax S concentrated mass flickers violently as its structure destabilizes. Chunks of yellow energy break off and dissolve into harmless light, scattering into subspace. Its voice fades from a roar to a howl to a whisper. "You will see me again, Hal Jordan maybe," Hal admits. "But next time, I'll be ready." With a final, thunderous contraction of the net, the remaining core of Parallax collapses into a tiny, flickering point of yellow light. Hal cups it gently in a construct hand, compressing the containment field tighter and tighter until the yellow spark is imprisoned in a sphere the size of his fist, wrapped in layers of green energy. The subspace bubble projected by the Enterprise S deflector begins to destabilize. Its shimmer flickers. Field collapse in 5 seconds, Data reports. "Hal," Picard calls. "Status?" The voice that answers is tired, but triumphant. "We read good, Captain. I've got what S left of it caged. It S small, weak, the rest dispersed harmlessly. Parallax S remaining fragment beats against its prison like a caged insect. Hal feels its fury, but it no longer shakes him. Power level at 27%. Structural integrity of construct ship at 39%. "Okay," Hal sighs. "Let S not push our luck." He commands the Emerald warship to fold in on itself, shrinking around him. Giant wings retract, turrets dissolve, corridors of light collapse into one another in a cascade of fading radiance. Within seconds, The titanic vessel that dominated the stars is gone, leaving only Hal in his normal Green Lantern form, floating in space with a small glowing yellow sphere in one hand and his ring aura flickering faintly around him. He looks up at the Enterprise. The Galaxy-class starship hangs in the background, majestic and steady, its saucer facing him like an old friend to smile. Hal grins. "Hey, Enterprise," he says softly. "Told you I'd be back before you knew it." He wobbles slightly as fatigue punches through him. On the bridge, Troy senses the sudden drop in his energy. He's about to lose consciousness. Picard reacts instantly. Transporter room, lock onto Hal Jordan-esque coordinates and beam him directly to sickbay. And bring that yellow containment sphere as well intact. The familiar column of golden light envelops Hal just as his eyes roll back. He and his tiny prisoner vanish. In sickbay, he reappears on a biobed, collapsing backward. The glowing yellow sphere materializes on an adjacent table, wrapped tightly in green bands. Dr. Crusher rushes over with a tricorder, scanning both the human and the terrifying little crystal prison. His vital signs are weak but stable, she reports. He's completely exhausted. Whatever he just did pushed him to the limit. She glances at the yellow sphere, which pulses faintly. That thing, on the other hand, is giving off some nasty-looking neuro-emotional readings. Let S not poke it. Nurses move quickly, hooking Hal up to monitoring equipment. Beverly administers a mild stimulant and regenerative agent. On the bridge, Picard finally sinks fully into his chair. The weight of the last hour settles over him. Silence holds for several seconds. Then Riker lets out a long, low breath. "Remind me never to underestimate a Green Lantern." Worf folds his arms. He has proven himself a formidable warrior. His ship construct was impressive. Data adds, the interplay of willpower and fear energy, combined with the deflector-assisted subspace containment, was among the most complex energy interactions I have ever observed. Troy smiles faintly, and yet at the core of it all was something very simple. He accepted his own fear and refused to let it own him. Picard nods slowly, thoughtful. An important lesson. Geordi S. voice comes over the comm. "Captain, engineering here. The deflector systems are cooling down. We gonna need a full recalibration after that stunt, but we in one piece. If you ever want to do that again, though, let us not." "Understood, Mr. LaForge," Picard says with a soft chuckle. "You will get your recalibration." He stands. "Number 1, you have the bridge. I'll be in sickbay." Riker nods. "Aye, sir." Picard leaves the bridge, the turbo-lift doors closing behind him with a gentle hiss. As he rides down, he allows his thoughts to wander. A being from another universe, using a ring powered by intangible will to construct a starship that could fight an embodiment of fear itself. And yet, at the end, what saved them was not the raw power of the ring, but connection, support, the shared strength of individuals choosing not to surrender to terror. It feels strangely familiar. The turbo-lift doors open onto sickbay-esque corridor. Picard steps through and enters, the doors parting to reveal Hal Jordan lying with his eyes closed, breathing steady. Dr. Crusher looks up from her instruments and smiles faintly. "He'll be all right, Jean-Luc," she says. "Just give him time." "Thank you, Doctor," Picard replies. "And our visitor?" Beverly nods toward the adjacent table. "Contained. For now. Whatever is inside that sphere, it has concentrated fear energy like nothing I've seen. I don't recommend keeping it aboard any longer than necessary." Hal's eyes flutter open. He squints, focusing on Picard's face. "Captain," Picard steps closer, his tone warm. "You did it, Hal. Parallax, at least this fragment, is contained." Hal slumps in relief. "Good. I really didn't want to leave you guys with a cosmic horror as a party favor." Picard chuckles softly. "Your consideration is appreciated." Hal turns his head slightly and notices the yellow sphere on the table. Its faint glow reflects in his eyes. "It's weak now," he says quietly, "but it's still dangerous. I need to take it back with me. The Guardians have containment on OA that can hold it. Maybe this time they'll do more than lock it away." Picard's expression grows serious. "We will of course assist in any way we can. But before that, I believe some explanations are in order, for both our sakes." Hal exhales slowly. "Yeah, I owe you that much." Later, in the observation lounge, Hal sits with Picard and the senior staff once more. He looks a little better now, the ring having slowly recharged itself off background starlight and the resting of his body. The yellow sphere sits in the center of the table, wrapped in layers of emerald construct, pulsing faintly like a malevolent heartbeat. Data projects a holographic representation of the earlier battle. The fear entity looms in translucent yellow, the construct ship in green, with the subspace bubble around them. "So," Riker says, staring at the floating image, "this thing Parallax is some kind of ancient fear god?" Hal nods. "Pretty close. Long before the core existed, before the Guardians learned to channel willpower, there were primal entities tied to different emotions. Parallax embodies fear on a cosmic scale. The Guardians fought it and trapped it inside our central power battery. That's the main source of power for all Green Lantern rings." Worf scowls. They imprisoned their enemy in their own power source? That seems unwise. Hal snorts. "You are telling me they locked it away and never told most of us?" For millennia, Parallax slept in the heart of the battery, influencing things in subtle ways. When my ring tapped into insane levels of power to punch a hole between universes, it shook some of that loose. "A fragment latched onto me," Troy frowns. "So when you came back to your own universe, you carried that fragment with you. And when the residual energy of the rift echoed on our side, it reacted." "Exactly," Hal says. "I tried to contain it myself, built that big structure you saw, but I underestimated how much it was feeding on my own fears. It turned my constructs against me, twisted them. I realized too late that it was using me to claw its way back toward your universe again. That S when I called for help." He looks at Picard, guilt flickering across his face. "I never wanted to drag you into this, Captain. You and your crew have enough on your plate without extra-dimensional fear parasites." Picard shakes his head. "You did what you had to, and you reached out for help when you needed it. That is not a failing, Hal. That is wisdom." Hal absorbs that quietly, then nods. Geordi leans forward. "So what happens when you take this thing back?" The Guardians put it back in lockup and pretend it never happened. Hal's jaw tightens. "If they try that, I'll have words. I am starting to think the core needs more transparency from our little blue bosses. I don't like being used as a conduit for something like this without my knowledge." Data raises an eyebrow. "Do you believe the Guardians anticipated this possibility?" Hal sighs. "I don't know. They were big on secrets for our own good. Wouldn't it surprise me if they suspected Parallax might get shaken loose, but hoped it would stay small enough to ignore. He gestures toward the yellow sphere. This time, they don to get that luxury. Picard regards the malevolent little orb thoughtfully. In any case, we cannot keep it here. Counselor? Troy nods. Just sitting near it is unsettling. It is like being in the same room with bottled panic. I can feel it trying to reach out, probing for cracks. Worf glowers at it. I recommend immediate removal from the ship, Captain. I agree, Picard says. He looks to Hal. Are you up to another dimensional transit? Hal flexes his hand. I am not at full power, but with your assistance and some careful tuning, we can reopen a stable aperture. We do it quick, in and out. No time for anything else to crawl through. Riker raises an eyebrow. No last-minute upgrades to your ship, then? Hal chuckles. Trust me, Commander. I've had my fill of starship design for the day. Picard stands. Very well. We will help you return. But Hal, there is something else I would like you to consider. Hal looks at him curiously. What is that? Your Corps and our Federation, Picard says slowly, carefully, share similar ideals in many ways. Justice, protection, non-conquest. If the barriers between our universes ever become less absolute, there may be an opportunity for cooperation, an exchange of knowledge, of philosophy. Hal smiles. You want to open diplomatic relations with the guardians of the universe? Picard's eyes twinkle. If they are as wise as you say, I see no reason not to. Hal laughs outright at that. Oh, Ivy gotta be there when you tell them that. The Guardians aren't used to anyone treating them like equals, Captain. It'd be enlightening. Riker grins. I'd pay to see that meeting. Data interjects. Technically, Starfleet officers rarely engage in direct monetary wagers, Commander. Riker smirks. It is an expression, data. Troy leans back, relaxed now that the immediate danger has passed. Maybe one day, Hal. Who knows? The multiverse seems more open than we thought. Hal nods slowly. Yeah, maybe one day. For now, I think one lantern crossing the streams is enough. Preparations begin again. In engineering, Geordi and his team recalibrate the deflector for another controlled dimensional burst, this time with a much lower energy profile, a gentle nudge rather than a ripping tear. Data feeds in the new parameters, cross-referencing the last event S-log with Hal's ring data. In the transporter room, Hal stands once more on the pad, the yellow sphere floating beside him in a double-wrapped construct. Worf is present with 2 security officers, partly out of protocol, partly to satisfy his own sense of honor in seeing a dangerous adversary removed properly. Think you will miss us? Worf rumbles. Hal grins. You kidding? You are going to set a new bar for weird mission I have to tell the Justice League about. They were never going to believe this one. Worf's lip quirks. I hope your warriors appreciate the tale. They will, Hal says. And if they don tea, I'll just tell them about the time I watched a Klingon security chief smile. That'll get their attention. Worf snorts quietly, which might be a laugh. Picard arrives once more, hands clasped behind his back. Everything is ready, Hal. We will open the rift on your mark. Hal nods. You've done more than enough, Captain. I want to forget it. Picard's eyes are steady. Nor will we forget you. Hal hesitates for a moment, then holds out his hand. Picard takes it, their grip firm and mutual. Jean-Luc, Hal says, if you ever feel like you're staring down something bigger than the Enterprise can handle, just remember, somewhere out there, there's a crazy test pilot with a green ring who owes you one. Picard smiles. I will hold you to that, Hal. They release hands. Picard steps back. Good luck. In engineering, Geordi signals over the comm. Captain, deflector is ready when you are. Proceed, Mr. LaForge, Picard says over his comm badge. Begin the sequence. The ship hums as power channels through the deflector. Outside, space in front of the Enterprise ripples gently this time, a subtle distortion that grows into a softly glowing aperture. The edges shimmer in green, resonating with Hal-S ring. In the transporter room, the chief nods, locking coordinates to the other side. Ready when you are, Mr. Jordan. Hal steadies the sphere of parallax in his emerald grip. He takes one last look around the room. Worf inclines his head, a respectful farewell. The transporter chief gives him a small, nervous wave. Hal smiles. Let us go home, he says. Energizing, the chief replies. The transporter beam takes him, transmuting matter to energy, sending it along the carefully shaped subspace window to another universe. On the bridge, the crew watches as a faint green streak shoots into the rift. The yellow spheres glow, swallowed by the aperture. For a heartbeat, the opening holds. Then it folds in on itself, collapsing softly with almost no disturbance this time. All that remains is normal starlight. Riker lets out a long breath. Think he made it? Picard's gaze lingers on the spot. I think Hal Jordan is exactly where he needs to be. Troy smiles softly. And so are we. Geordi's voice crackles in. Deflector is back to normal. No distortions, no energy feedback. I think we did it. Excellent work, Mr. LaForge, Picard says. He settles into his chair. Set a new course, Ensign. Resume our original mission. Warp factor 7. The helmsman nods. Aye, sir. Course laid in. Picard looks forward, feeling that familiar thrill that never entirely fades. Engage. The Enterprise surges into warp once more, its graceful form stretching into a streak of light as it leaves the scene behind. Unseen by anyone aboard, a tiny fragment of emerald light, barely more than a spark, lingers where the rift once was. It flickers as if in farewell, then races after the starship, merging playfully with the warp trail before fading entirely. Far away in another universe, Hal Jordan reappears above Oa in a corona of green light, the yellow sphere locked in his grasp. But that is his story to tell. Aboard the Enterprise-D, life settles back into its strange, beautiful normal. Exploration, diplomacy, occasional brushes with the impossible. Somewhere in his ready room, Jean-Luc Picard sits with a cup of Earl Grey, gazing out at the warp-streaked stars and thinking of a man who could build starships out of willpower and stand against fear itself. He taps a brief note into his personal log, not for Starfleet, but for himself. There are countless realities beyond our own. Today, we fought beside a guardian of one of them. If nothing else, this encounter has reaffirmed my belief that courage, compassion, and the refusal to surrender to fear are not uniquely human, nor uniquely of this universe. They are constant threads that bind sentient minds across the vastness. Wherever Hal Jordan's path leads, I suspect we have not seen the last of the Green Lantern. Picard closes the log, sets his cup down, and returns to the bridge. Out there, the unknown awaits. And somewhere, in another reality's sky, a streak of green light answers it.